Harder They Fall was a movie that snuck under the radar of a lot of movies that were released last year. Honestly, this movie deserves to be talked about more than it should. I fell in love with pretty much all the characters within this film. Jonathan Majors' Nat Love, Stagecoach Mary, Jim Beckworth, pretty much everyone. Even the antithesis to the Nat Love gang, the Rufus Buck gang, are great. They serve the story and give our beloved characters a true and righteous challenge. I absolutely adore Nat Love's arc, or really not even a character arc, but more of a test to his goals and whether or not he'll actually follow through with his plan of revenge. This film was a really great callback to the westerns that came before, echoing the revenge archetype that lays in so many westerns that it has become a cliche. But in The Harder They Fall, they reinvent the wheel of revenge and broaden our perspective to what revenge really looks like. Just because the hero avenges his father doesn't mean there won't be any repercussions. Rufus Buck getting revenge on Nat's father could easily be reinterpreted with Rufus being the hero. To me, this movie feels like a love letter to that bygone era. But in this week's video, I wanted to discuss my favorite character within this movie, and that's none other than Lakeith Stanfield's Cherokee Bill. Based on the real-life Cherokee Bill, Lakeith Stanfield brings this character to life. But what I find really interesting about Cherokee Bill is his understanding of the art of war. In the 5th century BC, an ancient Chinese philosopher and military strategist named Sun Tzu would create a military treatise composed of 13 chapters detailing the different aspects of warfare. This book was called Master Sun's Military Method, but would later be changed to the Art of War. What I find extremely interesting is how much Cherokee Bill understands the philosophies that Sun Tzu brought to light centuries ago. Now, yes, of course, I am aware that Cherokee Bill is not an emperor or leader of an army, but throughout The Harder They Fall, it's clear that he has a knowledge of when to fight and when not to. Bravery without forethought causes a man to fight blindly and desperately like a mad bull. Such an opponent must not be encountered with brute force, but may be lured into an ambush and slain. Whether you think that the Rufus Buck gang is right or wrong to coerce the army into freeing Rufus Buck and then killing them anyway, doesn't really matter. It's how Cherokee Bill leads them into that position in the first place. When Cherokee Bill is first introduced, he walks in like he's this new hotshot CEO that just bought this train. He calmly tells the passengers that he's not here to necessarily hurt anybody, and that if they all obey his commands, then they all shall live to fight another day. Eventually, they get to a car and find themselves in a sticky situation. What would be a sticky situation if this soldier actually put some forethought into his bravery? Instead, this fool blindly rushed in and compromised the entire army throughout the sequence. Of course, the army did have an advantage with brute force, but Cherokee Bill was able to lure the army into giving up their only advantage, causing them to eventually be ambushed and consequently killed. The next bit of evidence actually comes in 2 instances, but derives from the same person's mistake, and it comes from the character known as Jim Beckworth. Throughout the movie, Beckworth is obsessed with this title of being the fastest hand in the West. He promptly gives himself this title until Bill Pickett tells him that there already is a fastest hand in the West. That title already belonged to Cherokee Bill, but we later learned that that really wasn't the case. With that in mind, Beckworth is willing to do anything to become the fastest, but Jim Beckworth wants to become the fastest in a way that will be written in storybooks. That he and Cherokee Bill met one day and had a classic gun duel to decide who was the fastest. We actually learn what happened and how Cherokee Bill got that title. We get this dialogue.
You draw first.
What you think this is? Who the quickest draw on the West type thing?
All comes down to who fast and who ain't, right?
Oh, it all comes down to who's alive and who's dead.
I know it doesn't come outright exactly how he got the title, but we can obviously piece together that it isn't because he's quick, but that he takes advantage of the opponent's weakness in the actual duel itself. Okay, so the first instance is in the first meeting between Beckworth and Cherokee Bill. Jim Beckworth says that he heard tale of a man named Cherokee Bill, and that he's so fast that his opponents ain't got time to draw before he puts 2 in their back. Cherokee Bill says that ain't him, and pretty much just brushes Beckworth off and tells him goodnight. The weakness lies in Beckworth not wanting to draw on Cherokee Bill because that wouldn't be very honorable. So Bill uses that weakness because he knows for a fact that he's not going to shoot him, and instead gets some much needed beauty sleep. The next instance comes in the film's final act, where Jim Beckworth again attempts to do the same thing that he did the day previous. He has the upper hand on Cherokee Bill. To me, it was extremely foolish to try and accomplish this duel when it's obvious this is not the time nor place. Well, maybe the place, but definitely not the time. And when Beckworth does this really slow and drawn out count, he pays for it. Cherokee Bill took advantage of the opportunity and Beckworth was slain. Many people say that this is a cheap shot or that he cheated the count. Okay, maybe, but what did Cherokee Bill say?
All comes down to who fast and who ain't, right?
Oh, it all comes down to who's alive and who's dead.
What Cherokee Bill did was take advantage of the honorable gun duels that he obviously thinks is stupid. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. And I don't think that there's a better quote to describe Cherokee Bill. The next and last example I would like to point out between Cherokee Bill and his understanding of the art of war is in the final moments of his life. After he kills Jim Beckworth, it kickstarts a great shootout sequence between the Rufus Buck gang and the Nat Love gang. All hell breaks loose, and I mean literal hell. Complete chaos. This quiet little oasis quickly turns into World War I. So many things transpire that if you blink, you might miss out on a lot of key points within the film. Anyways, within the madness, Cuffy and Bill Pickett regroup in the saloon. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. As Bill Pickett checks to see how bad the wound is in the place that he got shot, he finds that the bullet was stopped by his lucky coin, only then to get hit with a second shot in the back. It is revealed to us that it is none other than Cherokee Bill once again. In the midst of all this chaos and the panic that both these gangs are in, Cherokee Bill takes advantage of the opportunity to take out another one of their key players. Then Cuffy avenges both Bill and Beckworth in a duel. I think him losing this duel against Cuffy just goes to show that Cherokee Bill never really was fast at all. He just took advantage of the fools who kept wanting to duel him. Because it doesn't come down to who fast and who ain't. It comes down to who's alive and who's dead. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Cherokee Bill understands the art of war. Cherokee Bill, in my opinion, is such an interesting character. He gets the spotlight within a genre that usually shies away from characters like Cherokee Bill. Characters like him are not usually given any light because they are usually seen as the gross, despicable characters that get killed off quickly. He isn't like the samurai or the John Wayne type cowboys that have an honor system set in place that they strictly live by. Cherokee Bill is a character that is indifferent to the ones before him. He's a villain, but not in the classical sense. Most Western villains are villains because of what they do, and Cherokee Bill is a villain for what he won't do. He's dumb but smart, simple but complex, and lastly, he's dishonorable, but at the same time, honorable. He understands how this game is played. Cherokee Bill understands the art of war. That's all I have for you today. Remember, stay focused, follow God, protect your energy, ignore the distractions, and without further ado, peace out, nerds.